we live? Check, check, check. Are we live? Hang on. It says we are live, but I don't see it on my end. Hang tight. Let me just make sure.
See it on the YouTube.
You see it?
I see it.
But is it live? Okay. Are we live? I'm seeing it.
Rewatching started 21 seconds ago.
Huh?
One likes are popping up. Says live.
Nah, something is off here. Hang on. Check, check, check. Hang on. Might be a little technical difficulties. Give me a second. So it's everyone in the chat.
It looks like there's two different videos.
Okay. All right. Yeah, it looks like there are two different videos here. And not sure why that is. All right, yeah, I got two different videos here. Okay. So what we're going to do is hang tight, everybody. Salute to everybody in the chat. Hit that thumbs up button for your boys. CP the franchise, Corey Taluba. The NBA draft show is on and popping here. Let me I think we got two lives going here. So let me just do something real quick. Hang tight, just a little housekeeping. Not sure how that happened, but we will fix it. Okay, let's make sure we get everybody in the room. Okay. All right, so I think we are good here. And we should be good to go. All right, salute to Knicks Nation, man. Salute to everybody in the chat. Once again, hit that thumbs up button for you boys. CP the franchise. My guy, Corey Taluba, is back. No Ceilings podcast, man. You guys know where to find him, man. The #1 podcast when it comes to covering the NBA draft. Not just during draft season, not just during June, but the entire season all year long. These guys are bringing you guys fire content, fire breakdowns, fire interviews. Corey, what's good, man? Welcome back, man.
Man, it's a pleasure to be here as always. I feel like when I'm on here, I get transported back to 2020 when we were doing these draft shows.
Yeah.
What seemed like multiple times a week.
Yeah.
Even.
Yeah, man.
But man, I'm happy to be back. I love being on KnicksFanTV. I had to come and, even come correct. I had to dress appropriately for the occasion.
Absolutely.
Happy to chop it up, man.
Yeah, man. What's been new on the No Ceilings front over like the last year or so, man? To give us some updates.
Yeah, man. I mean, last year has been crazy. We've seen crazy growth. We've been on the road, going to events. We were out at Hoop Summit a couple of months ago, scouting the 25 class. We're getting into the future stuff. And now that it's draft season, myself and Albert Gim at No Ceilings, we've been breaking down film with prospects. That's my favorite thing to do. Something that, I kind of took the reins over when Mike Schmitz went and left for Portland's front office. I used to work in the background doing the editing for those videos. So I kind of took that over, and I've been breaking down films with guys. Just got off one with PJ Hall from Clemson. That'll be out soon. So, draft guide coming out. It's a crazy time, in the draft world, and lot of content and not enough time. This one snuck up on me. I'm not gonna front, man. This one snuck up on me. So between the finals and the draft, like, this is like basketball nirvana for me. Like, this is the month, man.
No question. June is always a busy time, man, as like some teams are kind of segueing into the offseason, and then you still have playoffs and finals between, obviously, the Celtics and the Mavs. What's the temperature right now on this year's draft class? Months ago, it's been, it's not the best, it's terrible. Where do you stand based on the work that you've done and the people that you've spoken to?
It's not the draft is terrible. Right. Like that's the easy, way to put it, because there is no Victor Wembanyama. There's no Paolo Banchero. There's no Kate Cunningham. There's no Chet Holmgren. There's no guy who you look at as the face of the draft and you can say, this is the guy that, is up next. And, for all the teams that had a terrible year and, are getting ready for the draft lottery, there's nobody that you're like excited about as far as like this guy hopefully could be the guy that changes our franchise. But that doesn't mean that there isn't a ton of talented prospects in this draft. There's a lot of talent littered throughout. It's just a little bit flatter. So yeah, if you're Atlanta and you won the number 1 pick, you know, it's not as exciting as if you had won the number 1 pick the previous few years, right? But at the end of the day, you know, a guy like Alex Sarr is crazy talented, right? Like there are Donovan Clingan, 2-time NCAA champion, super talented. Reed Shepherd just had a historic season as a freshman as far as the production he put up. Rob Dillingham is exciting. There's still exciting guys in this draft. Zach Richelet is a guy that a lot of people are interested in, who had a great season over in France. There are players in this draft all the way out into the second round. So, when people say it's a weak draft, it's weak at the top. And it doesn't mean that the entire draft is weak, and if you're a team like the Knicks who are positioned with, 2 picks in the first round, there's talent to be had there. So, I think that for me, this has been the most exciting draft that I've covered. Because of the differing opinions that everybody seems to have, because there is no obvious answer. You really got to do a little bit of advanced algebra here. You're not just, doing some simple addition. But at the end of the day, if you're willing to put in the work, you're going to get a talented player if you can find them, because they're there.
True indeed, man. Well said. And, look, I think if you go back to last year's draft, obviously Wemby and Scoot were kind of like the highlight, and Brandon Miller. Those guys were kind of the highlights. But look, I thought you saw some players get immediate run and serve important roles for their teams, like a Kason Wallace. You had look at Lively right now in the NBA Finals. I mean, where would the Mavericks be if it wasn't for the play of a young Derek Lively, who, for the most part in these playoffs, has been playing like a veteran? Keontae George is getting his opportunities, and you got Jaime Jaquez. Yeah. Podziemski. I mean, guys last year, there were a lot of guys last year who were serving prominent roles this year.
Yeah, even, Trace Jackson Davis, going back to Golden State, right? There's always guys to be found in the draft. They're not always the most obvious guys, right? Like, the guys at the top, they might have the most potential, but, that's the thing about potential. It's not always fulfilled. And it takes a while. Whereas, you look at a guy like Jaime Jaquez, this dude was in the dunk contest, right? What was the knock on him last year? Not that athletic. Not that athletic. Sometimes you got to, go a little bit beyond just whatever the stereotype is and actually do some due diligence in your work, because you'll find guys, right? And the smart front offices, they find guys here. So there are going to be guys in this draft who are ready to go, who can contribute. And there are going to be some guys that take time and are projects, and you can't make a full judgment 1 year in, because a lot of times it's a process. You look at Jaylen Brown right now. I mean, he's probably one of the top 2 favorites to win Finals MVP, right? As far as betting odds go, he averaged 6 points a game his rookie year. He was pretty terrible, right? And it was a process to get him to that point. You look at Jimmy Butler, played 3 minutes a game, something like that his rookie year, wasn't playing. It was a process. So sometimes guys take time, and just because they aren't fulfilling that potential in year 1 doesn't mean they're not going to do it in year 3 or year 4. So when some of these guys like the Thompson twins or whatever, that have all this hype are, placed behind a Podziemski or whatever, it just requires patience and development. So, I mean, last year's draft, super talented. You're going to see how deep that was in the coming years. And then this year's draft, I think we're going to see something similar. We just don't have, a 7'5" alien. Well, we kind of do, but maybe not an alien.
I was gonna say, and it's since you bring him up, because this guy, he's hovering in a lot of these mock drafts around where the Knicks are going to be picking. The Knicks are going to have the 24th and the 25th pick, and that is Zack Edey, another guy who is drawing a lot of controversy. Is he going to be pro ready? What's his ceiling going to be? What have you made of Zack Edey, and what do you think about his pro prospects?
I've gotten to see Zack Edey in person a good amount of times over the last few years. First time I went to see him live was I went to go scout Jaden Ivey, and it's hard to pay attention to anybody else. It's not often you see human beings that are that tall. And, the only other times I've kind of felt like I wasn't, like I looked at somebody, I was like, you're also a human being, is like, I saw Bol Bol for the first time. And then when I saw Wemby, So he's kind of like that, where he just kind of takes you by surprise, because you can't really put into context what 7'5", 300 pounds looks like until you're up close. Like you can only kind of tell on a TV screen. So he's legit gigantic. But the thing that is kind of crazy that catches you, especially if you get there early, you get to see him, warming up, going through his pregame, like super coordinated, like ball handling, 2 balls at once, like stuff that you wouldn't think somebody of that size could be doing. Super smooth. And when you see him in person, you really see that he moves better than he gets credit for, because the fact that he's not one of these 7'5" slender guys, because that's what we look for now in this modern NBA. The fact that he looks more like somebody like a, Yao Ming size wise, people think that he can't move. But he can, he's very coordinated. He's very fluid. He's tough. He's got an attitude. He's got a chip on his shoulder, and he's just straight up good, and if you're looking at this draft and you're going, well, this draft sucks, because you're following the narrative. This dude was playing 35 minutes a game for the entire season at 7'5". That is special. To have that kind of stamina and to dominate the way he did. And you could talk about, well, he's not going to get the calls. Yeah, but he's also not going to be having 4 guys draped over him when he gets a post touch. Like he's going to have single coverage. And if he sends a double, right, like he's developed into a good enough passer that he can find the open man. He's not Jokic. He's not like that, but he's gotten better. He's improved on that end. He can pass the ball a little bit. But the underrated thing about him is everybody looks at him and says, oh, this is a post guy. He's also a 100th percentile pick and roll man. So if you put him with a guy who can run a ball screen like a Jalen Brunson, pick your poison, because you throw that ball up in the square, he's going to get it. He's going to finish it. And if he doesn't finish it, you're going to have to foul him. And if you foul him, he hits 70% of his free throws. So I think that his game is going to translate. I think he's going to be good. I think defensively, he's better than people give it credit for. And he got to show that in moments in the tournament, like when he wasn't, he didn't use his fouls up, was able to play aggressively against Tennessee in the second half, and was really doing a great job in that drop, playing cat and mouse in retreat, using his length, aggressively blocking shots. Because the thing is, he was their offense. So he had to pick and choose when he was going to foul, when he wasn't going to foul. Like a team like UConn with Donovan Clingan, who was playing less minutes, they had options behind him. Or when he was a freshman, they had guys ahead of him. So you can be a little bit more aggressive when you're going after stuff. Clingan had to be smart. But when he was, kind of able to be aggressive, I thought he did a really good job. And so I think his game's going to translate. If he's there with one of the Knicks picks, like, look, he has broken every analytical model. Like, you talk to any NBA front office, their analytical model is going to have him in the top 5, just like straight up. So obviously you have to watch the film. You got to put it into context. Teams aren't going to play through him like he's Shaq, right? But that doesn't mean that if he's playing 20 minutes a game, and I think he can give 20 minutes a game as a rookie, that's just, the floor. Yeah. He's going to be effective in those minutes because he's an outlier. He's not somebody that you can prepare for, you can game plan for in the same way that you can for these other guys, because he has something just physically that other guys don't have. So, not everybody might have in this era a center that could physically hang with him, right? If we're looking for mobile guys that are a little leaner that can move, you don't have a guy like that. Not every team has Embiid. Yeah. Not every team has Jokic. So I think he's going to be harder to guard than people think. And I think he's a little bit better of a defender than people think. Do I think he's going to be able to guard a Jalen Brunson, a Kyrie, a small shifty guard on an island? No. But I'm not sure that any big in this draft is going to be able to consistently do that. Those guys are special for a reason. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like, Jalen Brunson was putting up 40 balls like it was nothing in the playoffs. Nobody was guarding him. So I like Zack Edey. I think he's going to be good. And I think if he's there with one of those 2 picks, like, man, with the things that Tibbs values, like, it's a home run.
Well, what we're seeing and what we're hearing right now is OKC, Stephen Bondy of the New York Post reported today that OKC has interest in Isaiah Hartenstein. Not surprised there. Isaiah Hartenstein is going to hit free agency, and he's going to get a bag, whether it's from the Knicks or could get more elsewhere. You have Mitchell Robinson, who injury prone, did get the bag last year from the Knicks. What does his future hold? I think that's unknown. And so I look at the center position. It's one of my positions of priority in this draft for the Knicks if they do intend to keep one or both of those picks. So, the pick is intriguing to me. And, when you're looking at a lot of these offense and everybody's is going into 5 outs, as you said, they're looking for more versatile, more nimble bigs. Do you see, will that, I guess, plant him in a backup role as opposed to growing into a starter? Because, as you said, you may not see teams, running offense through him, but he can still be formidable.
Early on, I do. But, I see that for most guys early on. Look, an Alex Sarr, he goes to Atlanta or Washington, right? He's going to get run just because they're investing something in him that they need him to succeed early and get those developmental reps. But for a guy like Edey, he goes to Milwaukee, he goes to New York, he goes to Cleveland, spots that have guys that are already in front of him that are established. Yeah, he's going to be a backup. But do I think down the line, is he going to be a starting level player? I think he's a starting level player. If he goes to Phoenix, Nurkic is hurt. If Zack Edey is going to be the guy that is going to man the center spot, I think that's a viable option. That's a team that plays slow, right? In the half court. And he's somebody that's going to provide rim gravity and open things up and he's maybe the best screen setter in this whole class. That's another thing. If you're looking to get your guards open, this guy's going to hit you. And it's hard to get around 7'5", 300. So I think that in most situations, even let's say he went early, he went in the lottery. Let's say Portland took him with their second pick. They got Ayton. Ayton's not coming off the bench for Zack Edey. There's a lot of situations because he's a one position player. He doesn't have the versatility to go play another spot that he might have to be a backup to start. But ultimately, talent wise, down the line, as he develops, if he adds certain things to his game, this is a guy who shot 11 free throws a game. He over 70% of them, shot it pretty well in the combine. Do I think he's going to be letting threes fly all day? No, but we didn't think that about Brick Lopez. So down the line, maybe he's spreading it out a little bit, right? Depending on how he develops and what teams let him do. So he's got untapped potential that people haven't seen just because look at him as this back to the basket guy. But I think he could develop into a good starter down the line. Now, does that mean he's going to be playing in, the Western Conference Finals when teams are game planning in a 7-game series? We'll see when we get there. But if he's your starting center and he helped you get there, then those are good problems to have in that moment.
Salute to everybody in the chat. Once again, hit that thumbs up button for you boys. CP the Franchise. Corey Taluba of the No Ceilings podcast. If you guys want to call in and talk to Corey, man, if you got some prospects you want to go over with Corey, call us up 657-383-1509 or hit us up on the KFTV Discord. Yes, the connection is a little bit laggy, but we hope to stabilize in just a little bit, man. So just hang tight. And we'll get through it, man. All right, so that's Zack Edey. Right now, you have some draft projections in the 20s. Knicks are drafting 24, 25, so it could be potential there for you Knicks fans, man. So do some of your homework. Okay, another guy who I'm very intrigued by because I think that wing depth that's my top priority. Wing depth is definitely my top priority in this draft. Ryan Dunn. What's your take on young Ryan Dunn here? Small
Long
forward,
Long
Island's own, out of Virginia, man.
Best defender in the draft, straight up. Strong body, crazy athlete. It's almost crazy. If you want to get nerdy and you go into his advanced stats, 10% block percentage, 5% steal percentage, outlier stuff, truly outlier stuff. His block percentage is like an elite center, but he's a wing. Now, the problem with Ryan Dunn is that he's a wing, because he shoots, in the 20s from three, and he only shot 25 of them. And in the modern NBA, that's tough, right? You need guys to be able to space the floor. Now he's going to be able to, pick and roll. He'll be able to get stuff off back cuts, but is he going to have the gravity to ever be a threat out there, or a team's just going to sag so far off of him that it's really going to bog down your offense?
Right.
So even if he gets the 35%, it's kind of like an Isaac Okoro situation, right?
That's
Like
what
you're
I'm
not running
thinking.
out. You're not running out to guard Isaac Okoro. You're gonna let him beat you.
Yeah.
So he's a tricky prospect because defensively, he's elite. And that gets you on the floor. That builds you trust. But at the end of the day, you still got to be able to contribute offensively. So he might be somebody who's a little bit more plug and play in different scenarios rather than somebody you might be relying on down the line for 35 minutes, because I just don't think you can play an Andre Roberson anymore.
I was just going to say that name.
Like you just, those guys, they don't exist, especially the deeper you get in the playoffs. Like you got to be able to put points up on the board. Like even if you're a Knicks team who's grinding wins out, you still got to get to like close to 100 points.
Yeah.
Right. Like, and you don't want to make the job of everybody else harder by having that guy on the floor. But he's talented. And like, if you believe in your shooting coach and you can get him to confidently shoot the ball, because it looks okay. Like it doesn't look busted, all the indicators say it is. Like shot terribly at the combine, was like in the 50% from the free throw line, but like it looks all right. So if you can turn it around in some way, you might have something, but he's probably a one-way guy. So the one way is valuable for sure, but I don't know if he's going to be able to play in the playoffs because he can't do anything offensively.
I mean, how's the other intangibles? The rebounding, playmaking, the hustle stats. How did he look for Virginia in those areas?
Yeah, he rebounds the ball. He's an okay passer. Connective type guy. I wouldn't put him at the top of any lists as like wings who can pass the ball, but he's not bad by any stretch. But he's definitely like an intangible guy. He plays hard. Like that, Virginia guys play hard. They get after it.
DeAndre Hunter.
Yeah, like they play hard. So he's got all that. It's literally just like, man, I wish he could. If he could shoot,
yeah,
he's a lottery pick, no question. So I guess you're going, can we get him to shoot? Because then we get a lottery pick value.
Right. Who is it in recent years? Who's a wing who took a tremendous leap from three between college and the pros? If does any ring off on top of your mind? I think I lost your volume. Oh, what are you thinking?
Let's see. Yeah. I mean, Jalen Suggs.
Okay.
But he's not really a wing, But Suggs definitely did.
Mm-hmm.
Denny's getting better. Abdia.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. That was a big question mark going into the draft.
Yeah, but it's hard. It's a hard thing to bet on. It's a hard thing to bet on, and I've been working on a shooting model, and it doesn't project him to be a good shooter down the line. So it's a lot of faith if you think he could develop it. I mean, you look at the Thompson twins, like great talents, right?
Yeah.
Do a whole lot of things on the floor. They can't shoot it. You don't got to pay attention to them.
Right.
So, I mean, I guess the vision is like he's got to turn into Sean Marion, but he's got to be able to hit a spot up shot. And I think it's going to come down to confidence and a team that has a good developmental program.
Long way to go. I mean, I think we do have a good program, but we're trying to win right now. Brunson's cooking right now. We got OG in the mix. We got to see what's up with Julius. This is a make-or-break year for him. We need somebody that's going to come in and play right away. I need 3-and-D right away. Like, we can't, send him down to the G League, send him back. We don't really have time for that right now. We got to get to it and get competitive, but we'll see, man. Right now, one of the mocks has him, Tankathon mock has him dropping to 31 down to Toronto. So,
and then the other thing, you guys, your centers don't stretch the floor.
Right.
So, now the spacing is getting really cramped. You add in Josh Hart, and
Julius,
putting a lot of pressure on, right? You're putting a lot of pressure on, DiVincenzo, on Jalen Brunson, those backcourt guys. Because he's not going to be able. He's probably not sharing the floor with OG, right? He's probably going to be off the bench. He's got to be on a team of shooters.
Is there another wing in that 24-25 range that you like?
Yeah, I mean, the thing about this draft is that there are guys in the 24 and 25 range that one publication might have there, and other guys might have those same guys in the lottery. Some
Yeah.
guys might have them in the 40s.
Yeah.
So there's a number of wings that I think are good that I'm not necessarily sure how many of them could play, but like Tristan Da Silva is a guy who I think from Colorado, who's a guy I think if he were to slip into that range, or if the Knicks were like, hey, we really like Da Silva 24 and 25, let's trade up a couple of picks because we think he's going to be there. He's a guy that I think has the potential to play right away. Maybe a little in the same vein of like a Jaime Jaquez was able to play right away. Super skilled, 6'9", 40% from three, can hit pull-ups in the mid-range, defend multiple positions. He's somebody that I think is definitely interesting in those spots if they were in range. Another interesting guy is Jalen Tyson from Cal. And, you know, he's a guy that is one of these dribble pass shoot wings, and he's a guy who can really create space, really knock down shots from range. He can pass it, really good vision. Not always the best decision maker with that vision, but he was the guy at Cal. We saw him. He was at Texas Tech. He was at Texas. He had a few different stops. So we saw him in different roles. He wasn't always the guy who was playing with the ball in his hands, but he can. Kind of reminds me of like a 6'7" Denzel Valentine, which, you know, it's like when he's hot, things look great. I had a team executive ask me if they thought that Malcolm Brogdon was a good comp for him. So, you know, he's like one of these guys that can do a little bit of everything. He's kind of interesting, and he's a little older. So, you know, there's a chance that he might be more ready right away. Then there's a wing like Johnny Furphy from Kansas. I don't think he would be ready to play right away, but he's 6'9", can shoot, movement, spot up, and, you know, he's a pretty athletic kid who can attack a closeout in a straight line. Very simple game, but he's so far away defensively that, like, I don't know if Tibbs would let him play on the Westchester Knicks.
Yeah.
You know, so, you know, but he's a developmental piece, you know, like, but there are wing, like if you're looking for a guy that could play right away, my guy, Kevin McCullough from Kansas. He's a guy who deals with a lot of injuries, and that's kind of why his stock has been fluctuating. He's also a fifth-year senior, but he was getting lottery buzz early on. Now he's a guy you might see mocked in the second round. But he's a guy, he reminds me a lot of a Josh Hart in the way that he plays. And he's somebody that I think could get early minutes, doesn't have the highest ceiling, but he's interesting. A guy like Dylan Jones from Weber State, another guy that kind of does it all. Average 10 rebounds a game, multiple years, 6'5", 6'11" wingspan. Real chip on his shoulder. Incredible story. Like last year, Nike Hoop Summit teams, it's always the kids who are the top high school prospects, but they always have a scrimmage before they play each other, USA versus the world. They have a scrimmage with the Portland Generals, which is a mishmash of college guys. This year it was high school guys, but like random college guys. Went in there, killed it in front of NBA execs, made his way to the G League Elite Camp, played his way into the combine, and had some buzz to get drafted last year. Went back, bet on himself, and now this year he might be a first-round pick. So he's a guy that's interesting too. Loves basketball more than any prospect I've probably ever been around. Genius, the way he processes the game. 5 assists a game, 10 rebounds, 20 points, 85% from the line. Like, kid is really good. He'd be interesting. I think Tibbs would like him a lot too. So I think he's actually an interesting name for the Knicks.
Yeah, I think. Well, I'm looking at it from right on Tankathon. They got Da Silva up at 18.
Yeah.
In the Orlando range, I think that could be a guy Orlando's looking at. Orlando definitely needs some more offense. But you never know. I mean, if the Knicks could package up these 2 picks, maybe they move up. I'm trying to see who's a likely trade candidate here if they do move up. You know, Lakers. You got Lakers at 17. You got Philly at 16. Based on your travels, have you heard any whispers of teams potentially looking to trade up, trade down?
I mean, the Knicks are pretty tight-lipped. You don't hear much from them. I think this is going to be a draft where you do see a little bit of movement. I think it's going to be hard to, if you're a team in the lottery, I think it's going to be hard to trade back.
Yeah.
Because I don't know if the guys at the top of the lottery have enough separation from the guys in the back end of the lottery to where a team at the back end is just like, I'm just going to get my guy there. Like, I don't need to get up to find my guy. In the Knicks range, and if you look more at that post lottery, I don't know, like the Lakers might need 2 guys,
right,
that are cheap, right, like,
right.
And the separation between 17 and 24 is not a lot. It's not very big in this draft. So you could be like, I'm gonna get my guy. I'm getting my guy at 24. Like, I don't need 17. I'm gonna get 2 cheap guys on long-term deals that we can develop or whatever. Maybe they could play right away. We need to win right away. We need to get cheap depth right away, right? Like, we got to fill out our roster. Maybe it enhances our ability to make a trade in season, because it's more assets, whatever. I don't know. I mean, I think that could be interesting.
Yeah.
But I haven't heard anything specifically about trades at this point of the process, because we are still a little bit early as far as, workouts and interviews and all that.
Yep, still early, man. The NBA draft coming up on June 26th and the 27th. A 2-night spectacular first round and second round. What did you
afternoon spectacular the second?
Well, yeah, I mean they had to. I mean you're not going to put the second round in prime time, man. I mean talk about snooze fest. But what you even think about that? Them splitting the draft up on 2 nights.
I think it's interesting. If you're a team in the second round now, like, you have time to prepare. I think I've heard teams that are kind of like, yeah, we do our due diligence. We don't need time to prepare. Like, we already got our plan. Like, this gives an advantage to the teams that are, not as good at doing their jobs in the moment and making those quick decisions. But now, if you're Toronto and you got pick 31, like, you're not rushing into a decision necessarily. You might have time. Now, maybe 31 is as good as a first round pick.
Yeah.
Right. Except you have more options with it because it's not guaranteed in the moment. So now maybe you might get better offers in a trade.
That's a fair point.
For some of these teams, I think it's kind of interesting opportunities for them to start making trades, moving up, moving back, and really targeting their guys. I also think that it'll be interesting because a lot of the times in the second round, a lot of the placement are, agents saying, we don't want to go here. Don't take us here. We'd rather, Austin Reeves famously said, told Detroit not to draft him so he can go undrafted, sign with the Lakers. I think there's going to be scenarios like that too, where because there's a full day, these teams are going to be kind of speaking with agents, trying to get them to force guys in certain directions. So it's kind of interesting for a guy like me who loves the draft. I think it could bring about certain scenarios that you don't necessarily get to see because, first round, second round, now we're 2 minutes each pick. It gives a little bit more time. And I think it's cool that the prospects will have a little bit more time to get a little bit of shine on them because, these kids are getting to live their dream. And now they're actually going to have guys who they're going to have a focus on them. There's going to be more time. I am nervous for ESPN's coverage.
Oh, God. Oh, man. Just don't bring Stephen A. for Thursday, man. We already know he's not paying attention to anything. Just don't even bring him on Wednesday night because he probably still has no idea who even the top 3 picks are. Like, get Andrea Carter. Get me, who else on ESPN do we need? I mean, get the no ceilings guys up there,
I'm saying.
I mean, we got to go off the beaten path, man, because they are falling off by the day over there.
Yeah, I mean, look, their draft coverage is what it is, as is. They lost once they lost Mike Schmitz.
Yeah.
I mean, you're gonna have Kendrick. Look, I know we rock with Kendrick Perkins here. I think, but you're gonna have him breaking down the 47th pick in the draft, who's coming over, from Germany.
Man, they don't have time, man. They're not watching, man. They're not watching. This is why I bring you on.
Yeah, and I mean, look, I don't know if they're going to bring Gavoni on.
Oh, wow, yeah.
I don't know. Like, sometimes they don't even use him, the right way. So we'll see. I'm a little nervous for it and for these guys who are going to have some of these people who have never watched them, and maybe they have somebody in their ear saying a little bit about them, but Kendrick Perkins. He's not breaking down Nikola Jurisic's game. This is not happening.
Not at all, man. We'll see what happens there. Salute to everybody in the chat once again. If you guys have questions for Corey, you want to call in with prospect questions, you want to drop a name and bring to the conversation, call us up, 657-383-1509, or you can hit us up on the KFTV Discord. Salute to everybody in the chat. Hit the like button, hit the share button, subscribe to the channel. I see a lot of my franchise channel members in here. If you are a channel member, go ahead and leave a custom emoji in the chat and let us know that you guys are in here, man. Okay, couple more here that I want to get your thoughts on. How about DaRon Holmes out of Dayton? How about DaRon Holmes, man?
My guy. Yeah, I know DaRon. Spent the last 2 off seasons with him, watching him train for the draft last year. He went through the process.
That's right. Okay.
And ultimately decided to return to Dayton. I will say, Dayton fans, not the biggest fan of the Knicks franchise after the OB situation. Vocally very anti-Knicks. They do not want DaRon to end up in New York, but DaRon, he can hoop. DaRon can hoop. I just broke down film with him. I spent time in New Jersey watching him train. Put on 20 pounds over the last year. Went from a guy who wasn't shooting to knock down 38% of his threes this year.
Wow. 38?
38.
Wow.
Yeah. He had 30. He's like one of the only, he might've been, I think he was the only guy who had 30 dunks, 30 threes, 38% from 3, and had a box plus minus of 10 this year. The list he's on, as far as the production that he's had, he was so productive. It's basically lottery picks, and that's it. He's gotten a lot of hype this year that, I'm glad people finally have figured out how talented he is as a prospect, because he does everything. Reminds me in some ways of Al Horford, guy like that, who is going to be able to defend. He switches out on the perimeter, 2 blocks a game. He can pass. He can get in the post. He can pop. He can take you off the bounce. He's talented. He can even, initiate a little bit of pick and roll. His game is sometimes like not the most aesthetically pleasing, in that like he could look like he's moving a little stiff sometimes, but then he'll bust out something that's kind of fluid. Told me he's been doing yoga. But he's definitely the kind of guy that like Tibbs would love. He's much more of a defender than Obi was, so I don't think he would suffer the same fate in his development. Because I think that he could share the floor with Julius. I think he could share the floor with Mitch or with, Isaiah. So he has a little more positional versatility to his game. But so he's another guy, though. It'll be interesting to see if he makes it to that spot.
So I'm just looking at, this is just one mock that I'm looking at. I haven't looked at everything, but you got Tankathon have him all the way at 28. So I mean, like, what's his weaknesses here? 6'10". He looks versatile. He's got some pop in the 3. What's the biggest weakness in his game right now?
He doesn't have a ton of weaknesses, to be completely honest. I think you would probably want to see him shoot more 3s at volume. He only has 1 season of proof that he could shoot, because this is not something he had in his game. Last year when I went to see him work out pre-draft, his agent was like, "Yo, DaRon could shoot," and I was like, "Okay." Like, I could shoot in an open gym too. Like,
right.
Put me in the drills.
Yeah.
Like, I could shoot too. But he actually went out and shot it this year. But it's, you like to see more of a sample than just 1 year. So I think the question is, for him is like, is he going to be able to continue to build on that season, or was it variance? Is he really a 30% shooter, or is he really a 38% shooter? It looks good. Right. It's fluid. He's not shooting shots off the bounce necessarily. So a lot of it is spot up situations, but as a rookie, that's all you're doing. Right. And even a guy, like I mentioned, in play style, like an older Al Horford, because, if he was Al, he's going top 5. Al, in this draft, he'd go 1 if he was prospect Al Horford. But, he also, I think the other thing is level of competition. He played at Dayton. He wasn't in a Power 5, but you go and look at how, he played against Arizona in the NCAA tournament. You go, all right, well, that was one of the questions we needed to answer. Like, how is he going to play? He went and had himself a game on the biggest stage of his career. So he really doesn't have many weaknesses. And that's kind of the appeal of him. He's a pretty complete player. And when you have a guy who spent 3 years in college improving every year, that's kind of what you get. So he's not somebody like Obi who just kind of flashy athleticism and you kind of hope that he becomes a shooter. And then what's he going to do on the defensive end? He's much more solid. He's much more just like, he's not going to be your superstar, but he's going to be one of these fill in the gaps, star in your role kind of guys.
A shout out to JD in the chat says all CP needed to hear was 38% from 3. Hey, that's what we need. We got to get out of the construction business.
That's
got to get out of the construction business. You look at the Celtics, every guy can shoot from 1 through 6 plus Hauser plus Pritchard. We need shooters, man. Get out of the construction business. I love that we a scrappy team, but we need to start getting some skills in here. We need some skills. Need some shooting in here. Carlton Carrington. JD drops his name. Carlton Carrington. What do you think about him?
Love Bub. I'm probably the highest on Bub Carrington as far as like the mainstream draft guys. I have him in my top 10. He's not really projected there, but I think he is in this draft, he is a top 10 prospect. 6'5", 6'8" wingspan at a Pitt. Kind of a combo guard, play with the ball in his hands a lot. One of the youngest players in the draft. Believe he's the youngest domestic-born prospect in the draft.
Oh, wow.
Burst onto the scene, game 1, triple-double right away. That was his entrance, his introduction to the basketball world. And, he's young, playing a role. He wasn't necessarily billed to be playing. So, he had some ups and downs, but finished the season super strong. Probably the best pull-up shooter in the draft. Maybe you could argue Rob Dillingham for sure, but it's definitely an argument between him and Dillingham. Smooth operator with the ball in his hand, snakes ball screens, get to the elbow, playing space, tough pull-up midi, 50% on mid-range pull-ups. He can shoot it from 3, tough shot maker. He only shot, I think 33% from 3, but the volume was crazy and he was taking shots off the bounce. He told me the thing he's working on the most is catch and shoot shots because, he feels more, he had the ball in his hand. So he felt much more comfortable shooting off the bounce. So he's working on shooting off the catch to perfect that. But he's a guy who weighed, you watch him, long sleeve tee, probably like, this guy's skinny. Came in, actually weighed the same amount as Ron Holland at the combine. So good frame, good size, smooth game. The knock on him is that he doesn't get to the rim a lot because he's such a proficient pull-up shooter. Sometimes he settles for threes. And, I broke down film with him and we were talking it through. I played him a clip and he's like, sometimes I bail guys out. He's like, but, later in the game and we pull up a clip, he's attacking, so he's smart. He knows what his weaknesses are. So even though on the tape, you look at him and be like, he didn't get to the rim a lot. It's because he was able to get any shot that he wanted and he felt comfortable that way. But I think that since he's so young, he's got a lot of runway to kind of improve on that stuff.
Yeah.
He wouldn't play right away, but at the same time, he's super, super talented. And I think 2 picks and you get him in the 20s. Yeah, I mean, you got to run to the podium if you can get a kid as talented as him.
Yeah, young talent at the point guard spot. Maybe doesn't get much time, but I mean, did many people think G.G. Jackson was going to get much time this year? I brought a lot of you guys on last year, and a lot of people didn't think he was going to get much run, and he became one of the best rookies I thought this year. He had a great year. Definitely.
Yeah, I mean, you never know, right? Grizzlies had a bunch of injuries they weren't expecting, and then all of a sudden, right?
Too, yeah.
You're putting in a situation where, hey, let's let the young kid run a little bit. Let's give him some leash, and he stepped up and he played well. So I think that's a good call as far as comparatively, what you could be looking at if he did end up in a situation.
My guy, John Talento, shout out to John Talento in the chat, always in here. He says, can you ask Corey about KJ Simpson of Colorado? So you got 2 Colorado prospects in the draft this year.
3.
Okay.
Cody Williams as well.
Okay. Yeah, that's Jalen Williams' brother, isn't it?
Yep, that is. Yeah, KJ Simpson's awesome. I love KJ Simpson. Had one of the most statistically dominant seasons for a sub 6'3" guard in the last 6 years. He was you couldn't find a hole in his game. His shooting splits were outrageous. He made big shots throughout, the whole year. He's able to make plays for guys. He's strong. He's stocky, but he's little. He measured, I think, at 6.5 feet without shoes, something like that. 6'4" wingspan. So he's a little guard. And look, I mean, if there's one team that knows that you can't underestimate a little guard, it should be New York. But at the same time, it leaves you with very few options because you already got McBride, you already got Jalen Brunson. Like, how many little guards can you play at one time? The answer is 2 max, and only situationally.
Right.
But the kid is super talented. He's ready to go. He knows how to run a team. He can make shots, pull up game, mature game. And if you're looking for a guy to, be a third guard who, hey, if one of these guys is injured and you need to just eat innings, I think he's a guy that could step in at some point in the season once he figures out the speed of the game. But I don't know if he's a super great fit with New York, just because I think, like you said, you're looking for bigs, you're looking for wings.
Yeah.
But he is the kind of guard that Tibbs does, have a good history of developing in, the right way. You go back before Brunson and McBride, and, you can look at Derrick Rose, but then you got, guys like DJ Augustine and, the guys like that. Like, so Tibbs would do well with him. I just don't know how much he would bring to a team that already has those kind of guys.
Yep, that makes sense. If any of my franchise channel members has a name, go ahead and drop it in the chat, man. We will cover our franchise channel members. If you have a name you want to talk to, you want to get some intel on from Corey, go ahead and drop that name in the chat, and we will get to it. On the phones, 718, what's your name? Where you calling in from? Hello.
Hello?
Yes.
Hey, this is Mike Stratton. I'm from New York. I'm in California.
Okay.
And Taluba and CP, I really appreciate you guys. You single-handedly saved the offseason. There's all these other picks that I'm hearing that the Knicks are getting. It's just depressing. When I see that you have Jalen Tyson, and that's my dream pick.
What was the name? Say the name again.
Man.
Run that back.
Tyson. Jalen Tyson.
Okay.
Jalen Tyson, man, he's a dream pick, man. He can serve the New York Knicks in so many ways. He's a bigger wing that can 6'7". He can pass, dribble, shoot. He can break it down. He just gets in the seams that I don't see too many guys getting in. He doesn't lose the ball. He makes great decisions to me, and I think he can help them in guarding. He also plays defense, and he's athletic. You have Baba Miller at center. You have you have Mr. Ware at center. These are the guys we need. Somebody could stretch the floor. I love Mitch, but Mitch, I need a guy that's going to at least look at the basket when he gets the ball.
Yeah.
And he can get it to high post and look over the defense and pass the ball and cut, like Hartenstein does. And Hartenstein, if he just starts, because he has the mid-range, if they allow him to use it and he shoots it, we'll have a heck of a team that can match anybody. We really got most of the pieces we need. We just need a little extra. And I see the guys, and A.J. Mitchell. From Santa Barbara. I mean, he's 6'5". He's also 21, 22. And these guys can really pass, dribble, shoot, break down deep, and help with Jaylen Brown getting a little rest and OG getting a little rest. And again with, what was his name? And everybody knows him. He's the all-star on the team. He kind of gets me scared because he didn't show up a couple of times.
Yeah.
But if we can meld these guys together, we'll have something. Miles Bridges, he can literally walk for you. He's a free agent. There's guys that's there. We don't have to trade the team away for these big name stars. Yeah. We can get somebody that's just on the cusp, and we will have a formidable team like those times, like Clyde and Willis and them. Because they traded an all-star and they got Dave DeBusschere.
That's right. That's right. OG breaking it down, man.
We did quite well then.
Yeah.
I just don't want the Knicks to be arrogant because I've understood also that Dave DeBusschere, who was running the ABA at the time, he was telling them about a special guy in the ABA that the Knicks could have had. All they had to do was accept Dr. J and let the Nets move into their territory. But what they did, they wanted $6 million and Dr. J, and guess what happened? We lost the doctor. He went to Philadelphia. We could have been rebuilt right there. And we had Spencer Haywood, and we had Bob McAdoo. They ended up going to LA and forming Showtime.
You know something, OG? I can hear the pain in your voice going all the way back to the 70s. You've got that type of Nick trauma. You've got a lot of trauma, man.
I come a little bit before you, CP, but I was a kid in the 70s. I heard about the Knicks. I saw film, but I never seen the team do it. And every time they got close, something happened.
Damn.
Well, but now we got a chance. Yeah. And I see in this draft we can do something.
Okay.
And one more thing. Guess what, guys? This is the Bronny draft. So a lot of people are not paying attention. They're looking at Bron's son. So they're not paying attention, and you can get a couple of steals.
Catch him sleeping.
A couple of Giannis's that are out there that nobody sees.
Catch him lacking. Appreciate the call, OG. So all the attention on Bronny. Appreciate it, man. Appreciate it. He said all the attention on Bronny, you might catch him. A little diversion tactic, if you will.
The attention on ESPN certainly on Bronny. You know,
man, yeah. That's what it's going to be about. That whole second day.
I get those clicks.
Yeah. That whole second that whole second day will most likely belong to him.
Oh, yeah. You better believe it.
Yeah. Shout out to the OG, man. I had to let him rock. You know, I heard the pain in his voice. He was going back to, what ifs from Dr. J days. So,
I think he says he had some good names in there, though. I think he mentioned Kel'el Ware from Indiana, big man, 7 foot, 7'7" wingspan, who was a guy who he can go anywhere from the lottery to the second round. He's one of those wild card guys who came in, McDonald's All-American, 5-star last year. He kind of was the foe to Derek Lively. That was a lot of people were like, oh, I'm a Ware guy. I'm a Lively guy. I'm a Ware guy. But he had an up and down season. Coach kind of got after him, would kind of be in a press conference talking about how he doesn't play with motor. He's got to play harder.
You know what? It's funny when you were speaking on him. I got the feeling that this was a motor issue with this kid.
Yeah, that's kind of been the story with him. He transfers to Indiana, plays for Mike Woodson this year, and had a great year. I saw him a couple of times live. I'm not gonna sit here and say that he looks like he's, Josh Hart out there with how hard he's playing with the hustle and stuff like that. But he's also, I never got the impression that he was out there dogging it either. But he's super talented, crazy physical measurements, insane length. He's another one of these guys you see him in person. You're like, all right, he's not this 6'9" guy who they're listing at 6'11", and then he's going to get to the measurement day and be small. He's huge, super athletic. Theoretically can shoot. He shot 40% on 1 attempt a game this year, but wasn't a great free throw shooter. But coming in out of high school, the idea with him is he was going to be a stretch big who can also, get vertical and put pressure on the rim. But he's a guy that I think, because of the success of Gafford and Lively in Dallas in these playoffs, could be a guy that benefits just because teams are looking for that vertical lob threat and, shot blocking combo. And he's probably the best bet to have that, especially when you add in the fact that he might be a shooter too. But there are motor questions. So, the interview process, all of that, it's going to be one of these things where, teams are not only evaluating this year with him, teams are evaluating him all the way back to high school where these questions would constantly pop up, and teams are very familiar with a guy like him because he, was part of the Team USA. He was a part of all the, the high school all-star games and all that. He's not somebody who popped up out of nowhere, but you look at the Woodson connection, maybe, and I don't know what his relationship is with the Knicks at this point, if it's positive or not, but if anybody's going to have the intel on him, it's going to be Mike Woodson. And, if the Knicks have that connection, maybe they can get, more out of him than other teams could.
You know what? That's a good point, man. We should get Mike Woodson on this show, man. We should bring Woodson home in the KnicksFanTV and get the truth here on this kid, man. I would love to have Mike Woodson on the show, man. Shout out to Coach Woodson for sure. Reggie Knight says, ask about Terrence Shannon. Terrence Shannon.
Man, Terrence Shannon is a tricky season, a tricky situation. He's going through some legal troubles at the moment. He's got a rape case, I believe it is. So he was kind of suspended, and then the team brought him back. I've heard that he at least, not speaking on anything morally or ethically, but I've heard that teams are expecting him to be cleared of charges legally, and that, his draft range is probably like 10 to 25. But he's an older guy, super athlete, left hand, speed demon, power athlete, gets vertical. I've never been a big fan of his game, even, ignoring, any of the legal stuff that he has. Cause I've thought that, he's not one of these guys who's really athletic, but he can also play with pace. And he's also like played in college so long that you should learn how to balance when you're going to be athletic and when you're going to have to slow down. He's kind of always on go. And I think in the NBA, those guys are easy to game plan for when the game slows down. He's improved as a shooter, but he's still not somebody I would say is a plus shooter, somebody that you're really going to worry about. But good defender, strong, super athlete. Would not shock me if, he was a guy that the Knicks took with one of the 2 picks, because he's a wing that, does offer some valuable tools, and he was one of the best players in college basketball this year when he was on the floor.
Okay. Shout out to Aldi Joka in the chat. A franchise channel member says Alexis and Jinka. Can't really see that well. I think it's Njinka. Okay. Forgot my glasses, man.
Yep. Melvin Njinka, yeah.
OG for previous caller said CP. Yeah, I'm just a little bit older than you. So he might be right, man, because I forgot my glasses at home and I can't see. So, what's the name? Alexis Njinka?
Melvin Njinka.
Melvin, okay.
St. Quentin, French wing, 6'8", can really shoot the ball. It's kind of the whole scout on him. He doesn't do a whole lot else. Some straight line drives, but sometimes a simplified game is not the worst thing in the world. If you're drafting at pick 24 or 25, you're not getting a superstar most likely, right? You're getting somebody who's going to try to fill a role, and with this team, that's what you need. So if you're looking for shooting, like, he can certainly do it. Add another lefty to the lineup, and he's definitely going to be a floor spacer. But he's an interesting prospect. He was somebody who really caught the eyes of scouts during the FIBA U19s this year. He was really, really good for that team. So, intriguing prospect, but he doesn't offer a lot at a super plus level outside of his shot making.
And Will says Yves Missi from Baylor.
Yeah, Missi's a really intriguing prospect. He's another one of these lob threat guys, pick and roll, throw the ball up in the air, let him go get it on offense. He showed a little bit of like face up stuff. I'm not really buying that that's going to be a big part of his game at the next level. They were flashes. And, he also had a 3% assist percentage. So when that ball gets into his hands, it ain't leaving. And I think if you're going to be taking dudes off the bounce, you got to be able to mix it up a little bit. Let's let somebody else eat for once. So he's just pretty much a rim running, garbage cleaning, lob threat. And then defensively, he's really good. He's strong, he's physical, he's athletic. He'll block shots. He ate Kyle Filipowski's lunch when they matched up with Duke. Really took him out of his game and was able to guard him out on the perimeter. He's probably a little overrated as a shot blocker, but he can definitely get up and intimidate the rim. He's more of the same kind of guy in the mold of a Mitchell Robinson, to where, if you're just looking to continue playing that same style and you bring him off the bench, or you want somebody that could fill in for Mitch, if he's injured at any point and you don't want to change what you're doing up too much, he's a guy that could maybe do that. But he's also a guy who might go in the first round. He might go in the lottery. He's got a pretty wide range. And I don't know if he offers a ton more than a guy like a Dembona, who you might be able to get in the second round out of UCLA. So he's one of these guys that I don't think he offers enough out of the, lob threat and shot blocking aspect to kind of use draft capital on him as a target. But the Knicks have 2 picks. So that affords them a little bit more freedom that they can kind of go in 2 different directions.
Yeah. Where are you on the Bronny James hype? Shout out to Reynaldo Maldonado. I hope they do not pick this kid. I really hope they don't. But where do you stand?
Look, I like Bronny as a prospect. I mean, look, he needed to go back to school.
Yeah.
He didn't need to go back to USC, but he was not ready. Now, look, Bronny, it's a tough conversation, right? ESPN has done him a major disservice with the way that they've covered him, and are using this kid for views and ratings, because he's done nothing at this point this year to have earned that other than be LeBron's son. So I understand people care about him. They know the name. It's a weak draft. You're looking for anybody to talk about. But Bronny is a kid who does have talent. He was a McDonald's All-American. He was at the Nike Hoop Summit. I watched him up close for a week straight, practices, games. He could play. Real athlete, strong, physical. When he's in the air, he looks like his dad. But he has some real deficits as a player right now. And he had a really tough situation. He had a situation where he had a heart, issue.
Yep.
He came back in the middle of the season. He had to come into a situation that wasn't ideal for him, even if he was there the whole time. Not a ton of spacing, young guys, weird roster. So I commend him for what he did. I think he's going to be a really good defender at a certain point. I think that he's going to be able to shoot a little bit. I like his form. I think he's going to be able to shoot. He went to the combine. He played okay in the second game. He outshined certain prospects. He's a real prospect, but he's 6'2", with a 6'7" wingspan. So he's got plus, a good wingspan, but he's 6'2". And right now he doesn't have any skills he can hang his hat on. He should, he needs to develop somewhere, we always make a joke, like Westchester's nice this time of year, or Iowa's nice this time of year. Like, this is a kid who's he's gonna need G League reps, but because of the circus around him and the fact that like his floor is 55 to the Lakers, right? Like, that's his floor. They're gonna pick him.
Yeah.
They're gonna pick him.
Yeah.
Is LeBron gonna want him to develop in the G League, or is he gonna want him on the bench?
So
he can't play minutes. You know what I mean?
So because my thing is like, look, people can be wrong. People can be wrong all the time, right? And maybe he comes in and he's the second coming of Dwayne Wade. Who knows? But for me, it's LeBron, his team. They should know that he's not ready yet. So what I'm saying is this just all a scam, a Clutch Sports scam to get him in with the Lakers, continue to have him develop in their G League or whatever, and then when it's LeBron's last year, they can finally realize the dream. Griffey play on the same team, and then that's it. Is that it? Is that just a setup here? They haven't played for the Lakers.
It's certainly they're trying to. Rich Paul said that he's not doing a two-way. I believe like they want him to get a guaranteed contract. I mean, look, the Lakers will give him one, right? If you're trying to keep LeBron. I do wonder a little bit if there's a team out there that's going to be like, you know what? We're going to take him in the second round. We'll sign him to a guaranteed deal. And are you going to come here if that's what you want?
Yeah.
I could see that happening, and there being this weird game of chicken that dominates the coverage. But the whole situation is weird. And
it's weird.
And I don't think it's good for. I mean, look, for all I know, he's good at blocking out the noise. He's dealt with it his whole life.
Yeah.
He's tuned out of all of it, because he's grown up in it. It's nothing new to him, right? Like this could be another day at the office for him.
Could be.
But it's not an ideal scenario where you got this whole media coverage, and I saw it up close, like. Even at the Hoop Summit, when he did his media availability, it was, a timed, all right, he's coming out, we're timing it, it'll be 2 minutes, and then he's leaving, where he's not sitting at the podium like everybody else. Like, he's just, everything's always been different for him. So it doesn't surprise me this process is different for him either, because it's all been leading up to this moment. But I just don't know how a kid like that can handle all this with these expectations. But not necessarily have the skills right now to back it up. And it's not to say that he won't one day, because again, like you look at him on the court with all these other guys that he was coming into this draft cycle with. He was playing with them. He's better than some. He's outplaying some of these guys. You know, like he's a kid who had good moments in high school. He was a real prospect, but the process is being rushed. It's being rushed.
That's how I see it. But let's see what happens, man. Hopefully it all works out for them. 754, last call of the night. 754, what's your name? Where you calling in from? Hello. All right.
Hello, CP. Can you?
Oh, man. I just dropped him off. Call back. Call back, man. You got to be quick with the trigger, man. I don't have screeners anymore. I don't know what happened to Edgar. He moved on to bigger and better things. We got to hire a new call screener. So I got to be quick on the trigger, Corey. You know what I'm saying? Sometimes people try to call and they try to hit you with a crossover real quick. You got to be ready, man. You got to be in your defensive stance, man. So, you know, I got my hands on the button, man. But yeah, call back 754 call. My fault. Call back. Sounded like he had something interesting to say. Thinking of last year's evaluations, who was the guy who surprised you the most? The player who's in the NBA right now who surprised you the most?
Surprised me the most.
Yeah, who's the rookie that surprised you the most?
Man, let me run through that. I thought Ben Shepherd had some real moments in the playoffs for the Pacers.
Mm-hmm.
He contributed a little earlier than I thought he would.
Mm-hmm.
You know, he's a guy we had done an interview with him towards the end of the draft cycle, or maybe in the beginning too. So you know, he was on our radar for sure. But when you're a rookie and you're coming in, you're playing big moments and having moments in the playoffs, you know, that's pretty surprising. He didn't put it together the whole year, but when you're doing it in the biggest moments, I think
you got meaningful minutes.
Yeah, and he hit shots and he looked like he belonged. I mean, last year's class was so good that it's hard to say any of these guys at the top were that surprising that they were this good, you know, I mean, it didn't surprise me that Jaime Jaquez was coming in and playing right away. I was a big Jaime Jaquez fan for the last 2 years. I did a podcast on him 2 years ago. It might be even in 2021 now, late 2021, on how much I liked him. You know, even, you know, you look at some of the guys down at the draft, like Utah, when they started playing Bryce Sensabaugh at the end of the year, I thought he had some moments. He was a guy I loved. There's talent everywhere in this draft, man. Pods surprised me. I'll say Pods surprised me with how good he was, because he was really, really good in college, but he had these crazy, weird numbers, 8 rebounds a game. He looked like he's 6'2" on film, even though he was 6'5". You could tell he had great feel. He was a great shooter, all that. But he was playing at Santa Clara, which is where Jalen Williams came out of. But, you know, it's not like he was playing in the ACC. So for him to come in and, you know, be able to contribute to the Warriors right away, that was a little surprising that he was as good as he was as a rookie. But he was a super high field player. And, like, you know, that system is tailor-made for a guy like him. But kudos to him because he had himself a great, great rookie year that I don't think many people saw coming.
It's good stuff, man. All right, 754, we got you back. Let's go. What's your name? Where you calling in from?
What's poppin', CP? What's going on, Corey?
How you doing, man?
What's up, my man?
I don't want to see the Knicks drafting any players, man. I want them to package the players for Michael Bridges. I think Michael Bridges fits our roster like a glove. If we re-sign OG, you know OG's going to miss 25 games. He can slide in, put him at the 3. And when he's playing, you have Dante coming off the bench. I figure, look, Bojan, Deuce, 5 first, which I'm okay trading 5 first if it includes number 24 and 25 from this draft.
Okay.
If we're including those 2 picks, I don't mind trading the 5 first rounders. And you can throw in a couple of second rounders there and just get it done. Look, OG impacted this team like if we traded for a superstar. Michael Bridges will do the same thing. He's gonna. If we add Bridges to this squad, that's at least 5 more wins. That's what we got to do. We got to trade the picks, get them in here. Look, Michael Bridges will produce better than if we had a star. Let's say we had he would be better than a Zach LaVine. He would be better than
he'd be way better than that.
Than Karl Anthony Towns. He would even be a better fit than Mitchell and Murray.
Okay.
So just get it done, man. Just get it done.
Appreciate the call, man.
That's it. That's all I got.
Appreciate the call. All right. That was our guy. You know, I wanted to correct him on the Mikal Bridges thing, but he was so passionate. I said, you know what, just let him go. Just let him go, man. Michael Bridges it is from the New Jersey Nets. Repping the New Jersey Swamp Dragons. Michael Bridges. I'm very, very surprised. Look, I could be wrong. Maybe there's a blockbuster trade for Mikal Bridges coming here that I'm just not seeing. But I don't get how so many Knicks fans are still on this thing as if to say it's a reality. I don't see it. I just can't see the Nets doing the Knicks a favor, making him happy, unless there's a tax to it or, there's some sort of three-way trade where everybody gets what they want and everybody's happy. I just don't see it, man. The history of the Knicks and the Nets have shown you they don't trade. What do you think, man?
I mean, yeah, if you can add him in at a reasonable price, of course, that's great. But there's going to be a bidding war for that guy.
Right.
They don't have to trade him to New York just because his friends are there.
Exactly. Oh, and he's making it known, man. I mean, the fraternizing all year long between Hart, Bridges, and Brunson. If I'm a Nets fan, I'd be thoroughly disgusted. I would want to trade this guy because it's clear he doesn't want to be on the team. It is disgusting, this new wave of just like, man, come on my team type of thing between these guys. I would love to have had him. I wanted him on draft night. They dropped the ball.
Kevin Knox.
Shout out to Kev, man. He was a good kid. Shout out to Kev.
Look, I would love to watch it as a New York bred basketball enjoyer. I would love to see it.
Yeah.
Bring back Ryan Arcidiacono, get the whole crew back together.
Call up what's my guy? Call up Eric Pascal. Where's Eric Pascal at? Get the whole gang together.
Get the squad. Take him on a field trip. Jay Wright could chaperone all that. It'd be great. But it's hard, man. He's too good to give away just because his friends want to play with him. He would fit great, but you also, you can't we've seen you can't mortgage your future in the basketball world anymore.
No.
You can't mortgage your future for a guy.
Can't do it, especially in this day and age with the second aprons and stuff like that. Like, you got to be sure, if you're going to do that, you got to be sure that you have that type of team. But, I don't know. Again, I hope I'm wrong. I would love to have him on the team at a reasonable price. Who wouldn't? But, I just don't see these two teams just sitting at the table and doing a just one-to-one trade. Don't see it.
Yeah, especially because, it's not like the Nets being bad benefits them.
Right.
Houston
has all their picks.
That's why he's connected to Houston, because they might be able to get their picks back and own their their future.
Right.
What assets, 5 picks, the Knicks are going to be good.
Yeah.
You're not going to get great picks out of that. And if you include the 2 picks this year, you get in the 24th and 25th pick, and then.
And he said Deuce and Boyan. Then he made a 2K trade on top of that. So an unlikely trade that he doubled down with a 2K trade.
It would have to be some kind of weird 3-way deal, and you got to hope the third team doesn't want him.
Not happening. But hey, stranger things have happened in the NBA, man. Stranger things have happened, and we'll see how it goes, man. But great show, man. Great job on this show. Much needed deep dive and catch up here. Definitely needed it. And listen, man, this is why we appreciate what you guys do at No Ceilings, because you guys are on this from beginning to end, from January on through. So just great job on the coverage. Continued success. let us know what the next prospect, because give them the name of the prospect that you talked to today.
Talked to PJ Hall today. We got Harrison Ingram from UNC tomorrow. Got a couple in the back burner we haven't released yet. So, we'll be releasing those throughout the rest of the draft. And then we even got some recorded already for 2025. So,
wow.
We're ready to rock with those things.
Let's go. All right, cool, man. All right, so look, we got to get you on the NBA report. We'll probably talk about the lottery. Maybe we'll do a lottery show and come back here after the draft to recap everything with your grades and all that, man. But great stuff, Corey. Salute to everybody in the chat once again. Hit the like button, hit the share button, subscribe to the channel. Another fire edition of Knicks Fan TV's Draft Q&A. Shout out to everybody that came through with their questions, their suggestions. Definitely appreciate it. And, man, we'll catch up with you guys tomorrow on KFTV's Lunchtime Live, man. CP the Franchise, Corey Taluba. We out of here. Peace.